Right, things are progressing very nicely. The plumbing is now complete. I've managed to bodge together this tank so that the main pump will feed it, and then we have the option of either using the pump pressure to feed the garage, or if the power fails we can switch a couple of these valves and use gravity just to get water into the garage for using the toilet and cleaning our teeth sort of thing, and a very, very weak shower, but at least it's there. The pump has been running and it's filled up that small tank. It's very quiet in operation. I'm not going to operate it now because I'm in the middle of repairing a couple of issues around the other side, which I'll describe in a moment. What I want to do is get that powered up tomorrow all day, just so that the system is completely under pressure all the time, and if there is a little leak the pump will eventually kick in and it will cycle. Now the only leak I've got, which is serious enough to warrant some replacement work, is this valve here. This valve is actually leaking from inside its body and coming out of the cap, and I've had this before with this type of valve. Unfortunately there are only two in the whole of the house build that have got that issue, and these are them, and one of them is leaking immediately, so I've got to cut that pipe, put a joint in and put a new valve in, a different make. Yeah, I've had this before and there's nothing you can do about it because it's just the internals. For some reason the water's getting into the internals and coming out. So it's a manufacturing defect, not a fitting defect. I'll have to emphasise that because I did suggest that I would guarantee no leaks on this system from my fitting. There's a couple of spots here on this floor, but that is simply the stopper leaking because I hadn't used enough tape. That's not an issue because when the house is built this stopper will be taken out and a fitting like a tap or a shower will be fitted to that, so I'm more concerned about all the joints that are behind it, and none of them have been leaking this afternoon whilst the pump's been operational. Sorry about the banging, but there you go, it's a building site. So they're fitting the second door now, the ensuite door, they're setting it up. They've set up the door for the main bedroom, and they've basically completed all the block work up to the level where they will put in a reinforced concrete beam from post to post. So that's very, very good. So I expect they'll be wanting to start that particular job tomorrow, unless they're going to do the internal walls here where all the doors are. So that's the summary for today. Very happy that the plumbing's finished, bar one little change which I'm now going to attend to. I've got a different style of valve here, which has got a moulded cap. The one that's leaking has got a push fit cap, so it's obviously the handle's pushed onto something else and it's the something else that's leaking. Now this is different manufacturer. Good morning everybody. So I've just come back from the building site. It's 7:15 in the morning and this is the monk ceremony going on opposite St Therese house. Everyone's getting ready to go off to the temple in Nondindang now for him to be officially ordained, I think. Ready, Cup? Swaddy Cup. So, yeah, very good. Very good, thank you. I just do some filming. Food's going on the transport. Hello, Swaddy Cup. Swaddy Cup. This must be the man that's going to become a monk for a few months. Hello. Kids are practicing their English. Oi. This is the local music truck. Pickup with loads of giant speakers stuck on it. This is the giant tent that they put up, which they've needed. More food. More food going to the temple. Obviously, when people visit temples, they feed the monks. Swaddy Cup. Right, time for me to go and get some breakfast and get back to the building. Well, I managed to change that valve easily enough. Just cut one out and put another one in. It means the right hand pipe is now slightly higher than the left hand pipe, but that doesn't really matter. There's a bit of wall building going on today, and then I think they'll be doing the first layer of reinforced CPAC on top of the walls. I'm going to have a more relaxing day today physically. I'm going to tidy up the garage and hopefully fill the hole in where the mains is coming out now that that's been sorted out in terms of its levels. And it's been left overnight, so it's had pressure for several hours and there are no leaks. So this lot's got to be filled in. Now, early on in this build, someone asked, why on earth do you want such a high wall around your property? And the answer was elephants. And just to prove a point, Suntory pointed out that a couple of days before I arrived, an elephant actually came up to the wall here, and you can see the tracks in the mud. And they're pretty damn big. This is a big elephant that was here. You see some of the tracks are filled with water now, and there's one here that's not got any water in it, and the tracks come from through the field. I don't know if you can see, there's a little trail that leads up through this long grass, and the elephants obviously came from the forest area at the end of the field. So elephants have come right up to the edge of the house here, and judging by the size of those footprints, he would have been tall enough to look over the wall at this point. So that's why we've got a high wall, and the wall where it's lower will be topped with some sort of decorative metal just to discourage them from leaning over. Okay, I'm going to get on with some tidying up and sorting out. We've got lots of things now that can go to the cow sheds. They'll be used down there, so we're making a bit of progress. So the guys are just consulting me on where the doors are going and marking out where they're going to be laying their blocks. So it's 1 meter.
1 mét.
Yeah. So the kitchen door here will start 1 meter away from the post, because there's a washing machine in this corner and that sticks out quite a long way. It sticks out about 80 centimetres. So it's going to be sticking out from the line of the kitchen worktop. and then the door will basically be opening onto it. So we want to make sure there's plenty of room there. So they're just asking me which way around the door's going to open, and I had planned it to open inwards, but they pointed out that driving rain will come into the house if we do it that way. So we're going to have the door opening outwards so that driving rain will actually hit the door jamb. Now this is all without speaking English or Thai. He's using a bucket of water to explain to me. And I know the word water is nam, so I understand what he's talking about. It's a bit strange how things develop as you're building, especially if you're not using an architect and nothing's sort of done exactly like they would. A building contractor and an architect together. We need to find the level for this ground, and if anything, Suntory wants any drainage to go into that corner, which is unfortunate because that's the weak spot of the whole structure. But it seems like it's doing that naturally anyway. And I don't know if you can see along the wall here, but there's a great big sort of rising damp problem from the current level of the ground. And that's because the sand is actually touching the wall. And the sand conducts the wet, for want of a better expression, much easier than sort of clay or ordinary soil, I think. And because the sand is above the level of the retaining wall, it's making the boundary wall part, the upper part, wet. So every time it rains we're going to have this wet problem, which means we won't be able to paint this wall because the paint will just flake off. So I think we need to reduce the level of this earth, this sand, to slightly below the retaining wall, so that any water that goes into the sand and drains will be blocked by the retaining wall from reaching the outer wall, and then the whole lot will be covered by a thick layer of stones anyway, so we won't actually know what the level of the sand is, and it doesn't really matter. The sand can be 6 inches below the retaining wall as long as we build it up with stones to a suitable height afterwards. But one of the things I was working to, which doesn't seem to have happened, is that the boundary wall was supposed to be 1 metre high from the original land. Sorry, not the boundary wall, the retaining wall, the double thickness, double skinned infilled wall is supposed to be 1 metre high from the original land, and then the house base, the house slab, post base, which is this bit here, they're supposed to be the same level. So in theory we can just get the level of the soil from either side very easily, but it's not worked out like that, and I can't understand why. The land is definitely sloping downwards into this corner, and I know we've had a little bit of subsidence here, but not as much as my eye is telling me. The subsidence we've had, you saw the cracks in the other video, the cracks have been filled now and they've not really reopened, so we've had lots of rain since. So the settlement might have finished, the weight of the wall might have settled now, and this is its natural position. But I reckon the difference between the pad there and the retaining wall there is a good 4 or 5 inches. Anyway, gradually I'm going to get rid of this sand, probably over the wall, and I'm going to reduce the level to at least, I would say, at least 3 centimetres below the retaining wall, all the way around, and find, if I need to find a natural slope from the house down, I will. And then we're going to have loads of stones on top, which will eventually cover the pads and cover the retaining sections. So this is what I'm doing here. I'm just seeing how much extra sand has been put on top, just so I can get an idea of what I've got to dig out.